November 24th, 1991. London lay wrapped in grey mist. Inside Garden Lodge, Freddie Mercury's mansion in Kensington, a woman sat beside a dying legend. But she wasn't his lover. She wasn't his family. She was something else entirely. Something the world would never fully understand. Her name was Mary Austin. And when Freddie whispered his final words that day, they weren't for his bandmates. They weren't for his partner. They were for her. "You've been my common-law wife," Freddie had told her years earlier, his voice carrying that familiar blend of drama and absolute sincerity. "To me, it was a marriage. We believe in each other. That's enough for me." But here's what nobody tells you about Mary Austin. Here's the secret that's been hiding in plain sight for over 50 years. Mary Austin didn't just love Freddie Mercury. She sacrificed everything to become the keeper of his soul. This is her story. The real one. The one that happened behind closed doors in America and beyond. The story of a working-class girl from London who would become the most important person in the life of one of rock's greatest icons. And it begins not in England, but in a small apartment in New York City, 1975, where Mary would witness something that would change everything she thought she knew about love. Mary Austin was born in March 1951 in Fulham, West London. Working-class roots, humble beginnings. A father who trimmed wallpaper. A mother who worked as a maid. Nothing about her early life suggested she would one day inherit a fortune worth millions or become the guardian of one of music's most legendary legacies. Mary was quiet, reserved, the kind of girl who observed more than she spoke. She left school at 15, like many girls of her generation, and found work at a fashion boutique on Kensington High Street called Biba. It was 1969. The world was changing, and Mary Austin, 19 years old and unaware of her destiny, was folding clothes and arranging displays when a young man with dark eyes and an unmistakable presence walked through the door. His name was Freddie Bulsara. Not yet Mercury, not yet a star, just a boy from Zanzibar, with dreams bigger than London itself. Their connection was instant but quiet. Not fireworks, not dramatic declarations, just recognition. Like two souls who'd been searching for each other without knowing it. "I felt as though I'd known him for years," Mary would later recall. "There was an immediate understanding between us." They began dating. Freddie was working at Heathrow Airport, throwing luggage. Mary was still at the boutique. They were broke, young, and desperately in love in the way only 20-year-olds can be. They moved into a tiny flat together, shared everything. Dreams. Bills. A single mattress on the floor. When Queen started gaining traction in the early 70s, Mary was there. In the cramped rehearsal spaces, at the struggling gigs where maybe 20 people showed up. She believed in Freddie when success was just a distant fantasy. And then came 1975, Queen's first major American tour. Everything was about to change. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. That helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. New York City, March 1975. The Uris Theater on Broadway. Queen was performing, and Mary was watching from the wings. But something was different that night. Freddie was different. She'd seen him perform hundreds of times, seen him command stages with that supernatural charisma. But tonight, his eyes kept drifting, not to her, to someone else. A man in the third row. Dark hair, strong jaw, watching Freddie with an intensity that made Mary's stomach turn. After the show, backstage was chaos, champagne, congratulations, industry people everywhere. Mary stood in the corner, suddenly feeling like a stranger in her own relationship. That's when she saw them. Freddie and the man from the third row, standing too close, talking too quietly, looking at each other the way Freddie used to look at her. David. His name was David. Mary didn't confront Freddie that night, or the next night. She waited, watched, felt her world slowly tilting on its axis. 3 weeks later, back in London, Freddie finally told her the truth. They were sitting in their flat, the same flat where they'd built their life together. Freddie was crying, actually crying, something Mary had rarely seen. "I think I'm bisexual," Freddie said, his voice breaking. Mary looked at him for a long moment. Then she said something that would define their relationship forever. "No, Freddie, I think you're gay." The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Freddie didn't deny it. He just kept crying. And Mary, despite the pain ripping through her chest, held him. Because that's what she did. That's who she was. Their romantic relationship ended that night, but their love story was just beginning. "I'll never love anyone the way I love you," Freddie told her through his tears. "You're my best friend, my family, my everything. That won't change." And here's the extraordinary part. It didn't. Most people, when faced with this kind of heartbreak, would walk away, would cut ties, would need distance to heal. Mary stayed. Not because she was weak, not because she was desperate, but because she understood something profound about love that most people never learn. Love isn't just romance. Love isn't just passion. Love is choosing someone's happiness over your own pain. Mary made that choice, and it would cost her everything. 1976 to 1985, the years when Queen conquered the world. Freddie was everywhere. Album covers, magazine spreads. Stadiums filled with thousands of screaming fans. But when the lights went down and the crowds went home, there was one person who knew the real Freddie: Mary. She became something unprecedented in the world of rock and roll. Not a girlfriend, not an ex, something entirely unique. Freddie bought Garden Lodge, his mansion in Kensington, in 1980. A beautiful Georgian house worth millions. And the first thing he did was give Mary her own room, designed exactly to her taste. "This is your home too," he told her. "It will always be your home." His lovers came and went. Some stayed longer than others, but Mary remained constant, the anchor, the one person who knew everything. People didn't understand. The press certainly didn't. They created rumors. Speculation. Some said Mary was delusional, clinging to a relationship that was over. Others said she was using Freddie for his money. They were all wrong. What Mary and Freddie had transcended every conventional definition of relationship. They were soulmates in the truest sense. Two people who chose each other every single day, even when romantic love had transformed into something deeper. "All my lovers ask me why they can't replace Mary," Freddie once said to a friend. "But it's simply impossible. The only friend I've got is Mary, and I don't want anybody else." In 1985, Queen performed at Live Aid, the performance that would be called the greatest 20 minutes in rock history. Mary was backstage at Wembley Stadium, watching Freddie own that stage, watching him command 72,000 people with a simple AO, call and response. But she saw what others didn't: the weight he was carrying, the fear behind his eyes, the secret he was starting to suspect but couldn't yet say aloud. After the performance, in the chaos of celebration, Freddie found Mary in the crowd, pulled her aside. "Did you see it?" he asked, his eyes desperate. "Did I do it?" "You were magnificent," Mary told him. The whole world saw it. But what she didn't say, what she couldn't say yet, was that she'd also seen something else. She'd seen him touch his throat repeatedly during the performance, seen him hide a cough, seen the way his eyes carried a shadow that hadn't been there before. Mary knew, even before Freddie did, that their time was running out. Easter Sunday, 1987, a hospital in London. Mary Austin sat in a waiting room, her hands shaking. Inside a private office, Freddie Mercury was receiving news that would change everything. The doctor's voice was clinical, professional, devastating. HIV positive. In 1987, those two words were a death sentence. There were no treatments, no hope, just a countdown to the inevitable. When Freddie emerged from that office, his face was ashen. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 30 minutes. Mary stood up. She didn't ask questions. She just opened her arms. And Freddie, the man who could command stadiums, who could own any stage in the world, collapsed into her embrace like a child. "I'm going to die," he whispered. "Mary, I'm going to die." "Not today," she whispered back. "Not today." What happened over the next 4 years was a testament to a kind of love that rarely exists in this world. Mary became Freddie's protector, his shield, the gatekeeper who decided who could know the truth and who couldn't. The press was circling. Rumors were everywhere. Freddie's appearance was changing. He was losing weight, growing weaker. But Mary never broke, never told a soul. She absorbed every question, every accusation, every intrusive attempt to uncover the truth, and she protected Freddie's privacy with ferocity. She was at Garden Lodge almost every day, sometimes just sitting with him, sometimes helping him with medication, sometimes just being there so he wouldn't be alone. Freddie's partner at the time, Jim Hutton, was there too. But even Jim understood that Mary occupied a space that no one else could fill. Mary was his soulmate, Jim would later say. I accepted that. We all did. In 1991, as Freddie's condition worsened, he made decisions about his legacy, about his wealth, about everything he would leave behind. His lawyers prepared documents, multiple drafts, complex arrangements. And then Freddie made a choice that shocked everyone. He left Mary Austin his entire estate, Garden Lodge, his royalties, everything. Not his family, not his partner, Mary. "She's all I've got," Freddie told his lawyer. "She's my only real friend. She's everything to me." The lawyer tried to explain the complications, the legal challenges this might create, the hurt feelings. Freddie didn't care. "Mary or nobody," he said. "Those are the options." November 1991. Garden Lodge had become a fortress. Paparazzi camped outside 24 hours a day. Telephoto lenses pointed at every window. Helicopters circling overhead. Everyone knew Freddie was dying, but he refused to confirm it publicly. Inside, Mary watched the man she loved slowly fade away. His body was failing. His voice, that magnificent instrument that had sung Bohemian Rhapsody and Somebody to Love, was reduced to a whisper. But his eyes still found Mary across the room, still communicated everything words couldn't. On November 23rd, Freddie made his only public statement about his condition. "I wish to confirm that I have been tested HIV positive and have AIDS," the statement read. "I felt it correct to keep this information private to date to protect the privacy of those around me." 24 hours later, he was gone. Mary was with him at the end, holding his hand, whispering that it was okay to let go. "Thank you," Freddie whispered. His last words to her, for everything. And then he was gone. The world mourned Freddie Mercury. Millions of people grieved for the loss of a legend. But for Mary Austin, the loss was something infinitely more personal. She'd lost her soulmate, her best friend, the person who had defined her entire adult life. The funeral was private, small, only the closest friends and family. Mary helped plan every detail, knowing exactly what Freddie would have wanted. And then came the reading of the will. Freddie's family was shocked. His partner was hurt, but the will was clear. Mary Austin inherited almost everything: an estate worth millions, garden lodge, royalties that would generate income for the rest of her life. Why her? People asked. Why not his family? Why not his partner? But those who truly knew Freddie understood, because Mary had given him something no one else could: unconditional love, total acceptance, a safe harbor in a world that had often been cruel. She'd sacrificed her own chances at romantic happiness to be his constant companion. She'd endured years of speculation and judgment. She'd protected his secrets and his dignity, and Freddie, in his final act, had protected her in return. Today, more than 30 years after Freddie's death, Mary Austin still lives in Garden Lodge. She rarely gives interviews, rarely appears in public. She's become almost as enigmatic as Freddie himself. She never remarried, though she had relationships. She has 2 sons. A life she's built carefully, privately, away from the spotlight that once threatened to consume her. But every day, she walks through rooms filled with memories. Freddie's belongings, his art collection, his piano. She's the keeper of his legacy. Not just his estate, but his truth. People still don't understand her. The documentaries about Freddie often struggle to define what Mary was to him. Friend? Ex-girlfriend? Companion? None of those words are big enough. Mary Austin was the person Freddie Mercury loved most in this world. Not despite the end of their romantic relationship, but because their love evolved into something purer than romance. She was his home, his safe place, his truth. "The only friend I've got is Mary," Freddie once said, "and I don't want anybody else." He meant it. When Bohemian Rhapsody, the biographical film, was released in 2018, Mary was consulted extensively. She made sure Freddie's story was told with dignity, with truth, because that's what she's always done. Protected him, honored him, loved him. Even now, decades after his death, she continues to guard his privacy, his secrets, his legacy. Some people call her the most important woman in rock history that nobody talks about. They're right. Mary Austin didn't seek fame, didn't want attention. She just loved a man completely, unconditionally, in a way that transcended every conventional definition of what love should be. And in doing so, she became immortal. Because as long as people listen to Queen, as long as they sing "Love of My Life," they're singing about Mary Austin. Freddie wrote that song for her, after their romantic relationship ended, because he understood what she meant to him. "Love of my life, you've hurt me, you've broken my heart, and now you leave me." But she didn't leave. She never left. She stayed until the very end and beyond. That's the real Mary Austin, not the woman in the photographs, not the figure in the background of Freddie's story, but the woman who understood that the greatest love isn't possession, it's presence. It's choosing someone's happiness over your own pain again and again and again. It's being the person someone calls in their darkest hour, knowing you'll answer every single time. Mary Austin did that for Freddie Mercury. And in the quiet of Garden Lodge, surrounded by his memory, she continues to do it still. The woman Freddie called his wife, the keeper of his soul, the one true love that transcended every boundary love is supposed to have. That's Mary Austin, and her story, finally, deserves to be told.